Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
We're concerned about what Donald Trump means for our family. Will it mean that we will be separated from our mother, just like we were separated from our father 9 years ago?
Holy crap, man. Okay, listen, obviously this is racist. And you know what's even worse is Trump just likes to screw with people. So he's going to have a really good time doing this. Let me tell you what these two guidance letters that General Kelly, oh my God, issued, okay? Virtually everyone who is in this country without documentation is now eligible for deportation, and some in an expedited fashion. These two memos that were signed by the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, General John Kelly, say that no class of people are exempted. And basically, this cruel policy goes after everyone they can. Everyone they can. Now, just like in that CNN report right there, immigration raids under the Obama administration were limited to national security threats, obviously, dangerous criminals, and recent arrivals, people who were here for less than 14 days. So now you can go after any undocumented person, either convicted of a crime, charged with a crime, or if the agent, who will now be deputized local police officers and sheriff's departments, if they imagine that you could commit a crime or you might commit a crime. This is like the Minority Report. This is like that movie with, they can predict, that you will commit a crime. Well, if they decide that you will commit a crime, or they feel that you're likely to, or they just don't like you, or they're just racially profiling you and you say something they don't like, or you do something they don't like, just like, Chicago. Okay, Chicago. I mean, I pulled the Chicago police report that was completed just before Obama left the administration to show you that in Chicago, these police officers were poorly trained, beginning with the police academy. The videos that they were shown for use of non-lethal force like tasers was inappropriate, incomplete, and police officers did not feel secure using the tasers, and so put themselves in jeopardy because they got trained wrong, but that they were profiling racial minorities. They were profiling in Chicago on purpose. They were profiling African-American kids, men, and they were profiling Latinos, and now, they weren't able to do anything except chase them on foot, sometimes shoot them in the back, and they weren't able to do much, they were shooting at cars and killing people that way, but they couldn't deport you. Now they can. And because they're so well trained, I'm sure they won't make any mistakes and deport American citizens, although that has happened too. But okay, so Obama's focus was on national security threats, dangerous criminals, and recent arrivals. But now you're going to have all these deputized people with no experience in border control, with no experience in immigration, customs enforcement. If they think that this person, is likely to commit a crime or will be somehow able to be presented with a chargeable offense, meaning the local police now will be wasting their time going after mommies and daddies and neighbors, and they'll get tips that this guy speaks Spanish, just like they did in Joe Arpaio's time over there in Maricopa County, Arizona. That's what they'll be able to do. And so it becomes very easy now, think about this, for gang members and traffickers and violent criminals to evade detection because they're criminals and they know how, and the police are going to be very busy asking mom and dad for their papers, please. Now, I will say about the Dreamers, this is going to become a nightmare. I got to tell you, and there's 740,000 people who are Dreamers, who registered with the U.S. government, who gave their address and telephone number and where they go to school and if they have a job. These are children. You understand? They're children. Deferred action against children. DACA, okay? So these children now, while the president and Sean Spicer have said, well, we'll work on them later, And in these guidance letters, they do say, well, we'll work on DACA later. We'll work on these kids later. The actual memo, if you read these two memos, there's a portion of this memo that says, in the enforcement memo, it says, quote, the department will no longer exempt classes or categories of removable aliens from potential enforcement. That means that for the 740,000 dreamers, they are now living inside of a nightmare because they went with the protection of the government. They went and they registered themselves. They're undocumented, but they're children. So despite Trump's expression of empathy, DACA's the hardest thing I deal with. It's like really, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You're talking about people's lives. It's a tough one. So despite the intent, his expression of empathy, his memos say otherwise. The memo says no one will be exempt. So at best, they could tell the kids that they pull over, or that they threaten, or that they scare, or that they terrorize this law enforcement with nothing better to do. They can tell these kids, well, we'll get to you later. Go ahead, you've been warned. Talking about breaking some kid's spirit. Jesus, my God. And of course, deputizing the local police. What a smart thing that will be. Here, let's just pull the Chicago article. This is the Chicago Tribune that I guess January. Okay, this was January. It says, in perhaps the most damning, sweeping critique ever of the number 2 largest police department in the country, the Chicago Police Department, the United States Department of Justice concluded Friday that the city's police officers are poorly trained and very quick to turn to excessive and even deadly force, most often against blacks and Latino residents, without facing consequences. I mean, giving them more authority to profile, giving them more authority to racially discriminate against Latinos. I mean, what could go wrong? How could this not be great? It was a 164-page report. It was more than a year of investigation. It began after the video was finally released of Laquan McDonald spinning around in the middle of the road because he was being shot 16 times and he was unarmed. And this triggered an investigation by the Department of Justice. And this was the conclusion of that more than a year, I think it was 13-month investigation, 164 pages that paints a picture of a department that was flawed from top to bottom. In fact, I said, screw Rahm Emanuel. Oh, but you're a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not anything. I'm a progressive. I like progress. I want to get into the 21st freaking century. I want to equalize things in this country, not do away with certain portions of the. Well, you're going to deport 11 million people? You're going to put them in cattle cars? How's it going to look? What's it going to do? Maybe we'll do it like Operation Wetback. They put them in cattle cars. It looked just like freaking Nazi Germany here in 1952. Just like that. People died. 88 people died in the middle of the desert when we were moving them out after we had invited them in to pick our lettuce. Okay, so now we're going to repeat that shameful thing? We're going to do that? Let me tell you something. If people in Appalachia and coal country, if you want to go pick lettuce in Northern California, read Grapes of Wrath and go ahead and be Job. Go out there. Go ahead. There'll be plenty of jobs in Bakersfield. You could start picking peaches. Oh my God. We've gone from dreamers to a real nightmare, and in that order and in short order. This is amazing. I mean, good news for all the out of work coal miners. You get to pick produce in California's Central Valley. This is ridiculous, and it's shameful, and it's cruel, and he is going to break up families. He has to break up families. There is no way that you could have, citizen children who were born here, which he calls anchor babies, and separate them from their parents. So they have in this memo the 287G program that creates the potential for local jurisdictions to now become immigration officers to force, compliance with papers, please. There are plenty of cities that said no. Believe me, there are plenty of cities that said no. But local jurisdictions are going to run amok. Look what goes on in the major freaking urban cities. Look at all of this. I mean, this indictment of and I was saying Rahm Emanuel. Okay, screw Rahm Emanuel. You know what he had to do after the Department of Justice found that Chicago police departments created a culture in which officers expect to use force and not be questioned about the need or propriety of that use? That's what's in the report, and that they lie, and the police officers. It said the report cited a pervasive code of silence that leads officers to lie to protect themselves and their colleagues. Disciplinary authorities, in turn, have rarely brought cases against officers who lied, even when their statements were contradicted by video. Officers are almost never held accountable for even the worst shootings. That's in the report. Now you're going to let them profile families, moms and dads and kids and children. I mean, really? Young Latino guy? Really? No, what could go wrong? This came, possibly. But this is what Joe Arpaio, he had enforcement squads. And guess what they would respond to? Phone calls from citizens saying there's a Spanish speaker over there. Swear to God, people with dark skin are standing in the street. And then they would arrest them and they would put them in Joe Arpaio's jails where they were humiliated and punished. Why were they punished? Because they didn't understand English. A federal court last year found him in contempt because he refused to stop racially profiling Latinos in his immigration sweeps. Now Trump's going to imitate this guy nationwide? It is really cruel, this memo. It is really harsh. It actually throws out special protection for undocumented family members of those who are currently serving in the United States military. You could be deployed overseas God knows, in Syria soon. Okay? You could be special forces in freaking Yemen where he sacrificed a guy because he wanted to be, he wanted to try it out. And the guy's parents might be here for 30 years, and then he comes home from war or he comes home from his deployment, and his parents are gone. Yeah, it doesn't exempt active duty military families. It also calls for new detention centers, private ones, which is going to make the people in Boca, who own those private prisons, really, really happy. And billions of dollars for 10,000 more ICE agents. Where are we going to get that money? And 5,000 more border patrols. Well, I thought you're building a wall. What do you need a border patrol guy for? You're going to automate him right out of his job. So why would he, Oh, my God. So that's 15,000 jobs. Come on, Appalachia. Sign up. Move out. Let's go. Sick.
Clear for takeoff.
The Randy Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandyRhodes.com.
Go to RandyRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.